Yes, people, wife boy, and I've got some slightly new content on this channel. Today, I am doing a tier list of all the 2023-2024 Premier League managers. As always, this is purely my opinion. I'm going to be as unbiased as possible. Those of you that are new around here, well, I guess you could tell I am an Arsenal fan, but don't worry, I'll give an unbiased opinion. And as always, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd absolutely love to hear it. So we're on Tier Maker to do this. The categories are GOAT, Elite, Good, Average, and Useless. And I'm ranking it basically right now. So there will be some kind of consideration for their past achievements, but I'm talking right now, what they're doing, what I rank these managers. Let's go in the order that it's given us, starting with Rob Edwards. For those who don't know, this is a Luton Town manager, previously managed Watford. I'll be honest right now, I'm going to put him in useless, man. I know it's harsh, but let's be completely honest with it. There's 5 rankings. He's probably going to go in bottom of them. Nothing against him. He's done very well at Luton for his pragmatic style of football. But let's be honest, right? If you're ranking him and Pep Guardiola, it's chalk and cheese. It's night and day. You're talking about an absolute tactician of the world against a guy that looks like a casual. No offense to Rob Edwards whatsoever. If you last the whole season, fair play. But I think Luton are going straight back down. Speaking of teams that are going straight back down, we're looking at Paul Heckingbottom. Now, unfortunately for the man, this is coming a day after his team got absolutely demolished. 8-0 to Newcastle United at home, by the way. It doesn't really help his case. I'll be real, he's going in useless as well. This might be harsh, but it's the way it's going right now for Sheffield United. I think they also could go down for sure. Their squad isn't at the level of Premier League, let's be completely honest about it. I think they've got some decent signings. Gustavo Hammer, for example, looks like a decent player from Coventry, I believe. And Cameron Archer could turn up for sure. But if you look at their squad man for man, I don't think it's a squad that can really compete in the Premier League for me. And they're going to have to scrap for every single point. They've got unlucky at times, losing last second to Manchester City and Tottenham, which is, look, it's one of those things in football. But you got to concentrate for a full 90 plus whatever at times added on in football. And it's an elite level sport. You get found out, you get found out. So, unfortunately, to start this tier list, both those two managers are going in useless. Next, Big Ange Postecoglou. Now, I'm saying I'm going to be unbiased. For me, Ange Postecoglou, I'm putting him in good for now, but that's just for now because he's only had 6 games. But this brother could easily move up to elite. I've really liked what I've seen from Ange Postecoglou so far at Tottenham Hotspur. For a team that so far has been lacking sort of a DNA and a real culture about them and a real identity with Tottenham Hotspur, that's been the biggest thing that Ange has brought back into that football club. Now, it's very hard to bring back that sort of style into Tottenham, especially in so few games. So I commend him 100% for that because since Pochettino left Tottenham, that club's been drifting. I've lived in North London my whole life. I've got Arsenal friends just like I've got Tottenham friends. And speaking to the Tottenham friends that I've got, not only is their team not winning anything, they don't want to feel associated with the football club. I'm not saying they're fake fans or anything like that, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's just they're bored. They don't identify the club that they're watching week in, week out. They don't want to go to the stadium. And that's what was the case under Conte, Mourinho and Nuno Espirito de Santo. Now with Big Ange coming in, he identified that the #1 thing to do is bring the culture back, bring the fans back, bring the football back. You see Spurs fans singing, we've got our Tottenham back. And it's rightfully so. The football's brilliant. I watched him yesterday against Arsenal, North London derby, completely outplaying Arsenal at times, especially in that second half. And I think Ange Postecoglou's done a fantastic job at Tottenham, unbeaten so far. I think even the most optimistic of Tottenham fans would not have expected the start that he's been doing, especially since Harry Kane's left. But for him, massive kudos. I'm only putting him in good so far because it's only been 6 games and who knows, an injury to Maddison or Son and the wheels could fall off the bus. But so far, fantastic start for Ange Postecoglou. Next, we're going for Vincent Kompany. Now, Vincent Kompany's a struggling one for me because he did really well in the Championship, but since he's come up to the Premier League, his side struggled. I'm putting him in average. Now, I think he's a better manager than the other 2 promoted managers, Paul Heckingbottom and Rob Edwards. But the thing about Vincent Kompany is, I think he's persisting too much with this good style of football. Now, I do see a manager in Vincent Kompany. Make no mistake about it. I can see the brother do a real good job there. The thing is with Vincent Kompany, right? You got to understand where you're at. You're at Burnley Football Club, mate. You're trying to turn Burnley into a tiki-taka FC. It's not going to work. Sometimes you got to play to your strengths, man. Identify that certain managers, certain people are meant for certain areas. The definition of a manager, not just in football, the definition of a manager, full stop, is correct allocation of personnel and resources. That's what being a manager is about. Putting the people and the capital in the right place to succeed. And I feel like Kompany is not doing that. He's got some good players. He's got some technically gifted players, but he's not really getting the most out of them. I watched them the game against Manchester United. I watched them the game against Man City on the opening day. In both matches, good in parts, but they looked weak at the back. They were conceding far too many set-piece goals, and it didn't really look like they were scoring going forward. They look like toothless tigers. And it's not a good combination because no matter how good you are in the middle third of the pitch, no matter how much possession you dictate and control, the game's won in the boxes. And I feel like Burnley have struggled with that. So for me, Kompany's going in average. Next, Irola, the Bournemouth manager, however you pronounce his name. For me, I'm putting him in average as well. Now, look, I think he's better than useless, to be fair. I've seen signs from Bournemouth where they've been good, but just like Vincent Kompany, they're looking a little bit toothless, Bournemouth. And this is the problem, right? They're getting the label. Burnley and Bournemouth right now are getting the label of teams you want to play against, and that's never a good sign. Because, especially Burnley, Bournemouth have always been a nice team to play against, team on the seaside, tippy-tappy football, not really going to bully you off the pitch. Whereas Burnley have always had the stigma around them. They're going to be aggressive, tenacious, a modern-day Stoke City and Wimbledon from the past, that kind of throwback team. Whereas now under Kompany, they're like that. And same with Bournemouth, under Irola, however you pronounce his name. They're just a little bit nice to play against. Not really going to get in your face. They're not really going to be clinical in front of goal. They seem leaky at the back. Obviously, it's an early start for him. He's just coming in replacing Gary O'Neill. So, you got to give him some time. But I do think that he's got a steep hill to climb, Irola at Bournemouth. Yet to get a win, I don't believe. He's got a couple points from draws, but the brother needs to find some wins from somewhere. Next, we've got Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson, for me, is a really good manager, man. Really good manager. Now, obviously, he is pending retirement. The brother's knocking on the door of 80, 85, I want to say. So, look. The thing with Roy Hodgson is, right, they obviously got rid of him in Crystal Palace despite the fact he was doing a good job because they understood that they can't keep the brother forever. He wants to collect his pension by now. And they tried to go for Patrick Vieira. Now, the Vieira experiment didn't work, so they went back to basics and brought back in Roy Hodgson. Now, for me, obviously it was stable. It kept the club afloat. And under Roy Hodgson, they're doing quite well right now. But you have to understand that Roy Hodgson has to leave at some point. So you're going to have to make that step at some point anyway to go for a new young manager again. So for me, it was taking a step backwards, appointing Roy Hodgson. But the man himself, he's a good manager, man. Roy Hodgson's been in the game enough. He's managed England, for example. He's managed some good teams in his time. Never quite got the elite job in my eyes. And maybe that's the one part of his career he might regret, not going for the elite job. Because even when he managed England, I don't think he was at his prime when he managed England, to be honest. But he's a manager that can get a result at any point. He's got that Crystal Palace team ticking. Eze's been fantastic to start the season. Elise's on a new contract. I'm expecting him to start firing at some point as well. So for me, Roy Hodgson's a good manager. Next, we got Jurgen Klopp. And Jurgen Klopp, make no mistake about it, he's going in GOAT category. This man's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. There was a period, I believe, where him and Pep Guardiola were literally neck and neck for GOAT managers in the Premier League. The thing about Jurgen Klopp is, right, the man, no matter what squad he's got, he can perform with any squad. I genuinely believe that. That's the difference between him and Pep Guardiola. Guardiola, I'm going to get on to Guardiola in just a second, obviously, when his name comes up on the tier list. But Guardiola, obviously, needs a certain personnel or player to really do well. Whereas Klopp, I feel like he can turn metal into gold, if that's a statement. You know what I mean? Like, he can turn something into anything. You give him some average players and he can coach them into top tier players, and I really respect that from Jurgen Klopp. He's a really good man-to-man manager. He's a real system-based manager. His team's always exciting to watch. I remember when Liverpool Man City were going tit for tat for 4 or 5 seasons in the Premier League. I would always watch a Liverpool game over a Man City game if you gave me the choice, because I love watching that Liverpool, like, gegenpress with the blitz football, with the fact that Mane, Salah, Firmino just running riot up front. Their midfield with Wijnaldum in there being an absolute engine up and down the football pitch. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson whipping balls in. It was a fantastic team to watch. So for me, make no mistake about it, Jurgen Klopp goes in GOAT category and has won a Premier League as well. Next, Unai Emery. Unai Emery for me is an elite manager. Now, I am an Arsenal fan, so I've seen him at Arsenal. And look, if you watch the guy at Arsenal, you'll probably sit there and think, how can this guy be elite? But for me, I think it's just a case of the wrong manager the wrong manager at the wrong club. That's what it is. It's square pegs and round holes. Now, Unai Emery did not fit Arsenal. That doesn't mean Unai Emery's a bad manager. It doesn't mean Arsenal's a bad football club. We've seen David Moyes, for example, flop at Manchester United, but win a couple trophies at West Ham. So it just kind of reflects on the manager, right? It depends what club they go to. Unai Emery is still a really good manager. Look, he's given Aston Villa European football for the first time in yonks. It's been ages since they got European football. The team's really clicking. He's built a really pragmatic team. Diaby's a fantastic signing. He's clicking there. Ollie Watkins, a player he originally wanted at my club, Arsenal. He's now got his wish managing him at Aston Villa. He's brought in some of his boys as well, like Pau Torres, etc. I think he's a really good manager at Unai Emery, and he can pick up a result against the best of them. So yeah, I'm putting him in the elite category. I think it's a lower elite. It's borderline elite and good, but I'm putting him in elite. And look, I think you might sit there and think, how's Ange Postecoglou in good, but Unai Emery's in elite, for example? That's just because Unai Emery's had a season at least with Aston Villa now. And if you look at the table, since Unai Emery actually took charge of Aston Villa, he's pushing, bro. He might even be in the Champions League spots because he's done really well since he's taken over from Steven Gerrard. So yeah, I'm putting him in elite. Pep Guardiola, I think there's no two ways about it. This brother has to go in GOAT, man. Has to go in GOAT. I think he's done a fantastic job at Man City. Wins the Premier League basically season in, season out. And it's so underrated to do so because a lot of people sit there and go, oh, but he's expected to win it. He's Pep Guardiola. And yes, fair, I agree with you in that respect. But come on, it's still not easy to win this Premier League by any stretch of the imagination, man. Not easy one bit. So for him to be able to do that, fantastic job, Pep Guardiola, man. I could be expected to get an A-star in a maths exam, right? But to still go out and get an A-star, I still deserve the plaudits. It's still not easy to do. So that's Pep Guardiola week in, week out. Obviously, the players he manages, he makes them better. Rodri's turned to the best CDM of all time when he was a backup at... Sorry, not of all time. So the best CDM right now in the Premier League when he was a backup at Atletico Madrid a few seasons ago. He improves players. Jeremy Doku's come in from the French League and turned into one of the best wingers already in the Premier League, the way he's so tricky. The man's just elite, Pep Guardiola, and I bank him probably winning the Premier League, if not another trophy this season as well. Next, Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe for me goes in elite. Now, it's funny about Eddie Howe because originally I was going to put this brother in good, but the job he's done at Newcastle's been fantastic. Really good, man. Given that they could have easily gone for a top-tier manager. Eddie Howe's only experience was at Bournemouth, and he did really well at Bournemouth, by the way. But he never really seemed to... He peaked at Bournemouth. Do you get what I mean? Like, he peaked. He didn't really go any higher than Bournemouth. He got into the Premier League, and that was it. He couldn't really push on with them into mid-table. It was always just fighting in the Premier League to survive. He kept them afloat for a long time, but he wasn't really pushing on with them. He's gone to Newcastle now, got the job he wanted, and done fantastic there. Look, for all the money Newcastle's got, for all the injection of cash from their owners, they haven't spent boatloads of money. They've spent money, make no mistake about it. Sandro Tonali, Alexander Isak are top players they've brought in, etc. Bruno Guimaraes. But they've not spent the 200, 300 million a window that we've seen Chelsea spend, for example. And he's still doing really well. Look, there's players in there like Dan Burn that he's getting the most out of. Miguel Almiron that he's turned into a top quality winger. So I think Eddie Howe deserves an awful lot of credit right here. And I'm putting him in elite. Next, Mauricio Pochettino. Now, I'm going to put him in elite. Now, for me, I'm borderline putting him in good. Pochettino's rep has decreased dramatically since he's joined Tottenham. Now, it's only been 6 games, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Just like I've given Ange Postecoglou, I'm going to allow him, because it's only been 6 games, whether to bump him up to elite. With Pochettino, I'm keeping him in elite for now, but if he continues to flop at Chelsea, his cred's going down, man. There's only so much credit in the bank with him. The thing with Pochettino, right, is, yeah, at Tottenham, he did really well. Very, very well. But at Tottenham, there wasn't really much expectation of him. He was a manager that brought in and was working with downsized tools. He didn't exactly have the top quality squad. He was working a lot with the academy, bringing in players from there, and really turning lemons into one of the best things you've ever seen in the world, right? But the thing with him at Chelsea is, right, he's been converted into a checkbook manager, and that's not how you do Pochettino. Pochettino went to PSG, and it was the wrong appointment there as well. He's not a checkbook manager. He's not a manager that you give money to and hope something good happens. He's a manager that you let him work with the academy, work with the squad. And the problem is the squad's too big. Chelsea need a real ego manager to come in that door and just put everyone in place, like an army militant general manager. Not a Pochettino that's a real project manager. That's just my thoughts on it. So he's elite for now, but Chelsea right now are doing really badly, and his credit is slowly slipping away. Next, we've got Sean Dyche. Sean Dyche, for me, is going in average. Now, he's not in useless because he's done really well at Burnley, got them into the top half of the table. But the thing with Sean Dyche is, right, he's just an old-style football manager, man. And there's going to be a place for them. There always will be. We can't have 20 Pep Guardiolas managing Premier League sides. And I do respect players that managers that have a different style of football. And I understand that they are not the best team in the world. They aren't the best technically. They're going to play pragmatically. They're going to play defensively and try and get results on the counter. And he's doing that, Sean Dyche. But the quality of football is not there. I've seen Everton play games and they look shocking, man. Absolutely shocking. So, for me, I can't put him any higher than average, to be honest with Sean Dyche. I think Everton should have moved on from him. Look, Everton can't be bringing in a manager that is known as a relegation surviving manager. That's not the way. That's not the mentality to have. Even if you're on a relegation scrap, bring in a manager that's at least got ambition, that at least can push you forward and drive your team forward, because Everton should not be in relegation scrap season in, season out. Play with matches, you're going to get burnt, right? And they're doing that. So it's a real shame for Everton that they're in another relegation scrap, it seems like. But they got a good win against Brentford. I watched the game. They seem really good on the counter. Dominic Calvert-Lewin got a good goal as well. So yeah, I think Everton, there's cause for concern, but there's also light at the end of the tunnel. So there's 2 ways to look at it. Glass half full, glass half empty. Next, Erik Ten Hag. Now this one's going to divide opinion. For me, Erik Ten Hag's an elite manager. Now, people might look at it and go, how is this guy an elite manager? He shipped out Ronaldo. His team are shocking this season. I think there's deeper problems at Manchester United, genuinely. I've seen managers like Mourinho come to Man United on flop. I've seen other managers come to Man United like Louis van Gaal on flop since Ferguson left. Since Ferguson left, not a single manager's done a good job. The difference is Erik Ten Hag at least has won a trophy for Man United in his first season. Yes, it's a Carabao Cup, but it's still a trophy. He got them top 4 in his first season, when the season before, United were nowhere near top 4. He's vastly improved that squad. Rashford had his best season for Manchester United in donkey's years, when the season before that, people were saying Rashford should get shipped out. The environment ain't right for him. So Ten Hag's done a good job, man. Don't let some of the other media, pundits, people on Twitter, people on Instagram tell you, oh, Ten Hag's a flop manager. As an Arsenal fan, I'm telling you, Ten Hag is a decent manager, really. He's an elite manager in my eyes, man. You got to give the man some time. Obviously, he's brought in his players. The start of the season hasn't been great, but the start of the season last year wasn't great, and they started to pick up form. They got a vital win against Burnley. I don't think they were great, but they found a way to win that game, and that's all that mattered. So, yeah, really good result against Burnley, and some reason to kick on there as well. It was a tough start in the Champions League, but they got Bayern Munich, man. Not many teams on this planet is going to beat Bayern Munich, to be honest. So, yeah, I think Ten Hag still remains an elite manager. Next, Marco Silva, manager of Fulham. He's good for me. He's good borderline elite. Now, Marco Silva did a fantastic job at Fulham. Before he was at Everton, I didn't really do great, to be honest. I'll be honest with you guys. Didn't really do great. But he came to Fulham and got a new sense of, I guess, belonging, confidence. And he's been firing that team. They've done really well. They lost Mitrovic in the summer, but have remained a really good side. They're tough to play against. They're organised. They're playing exciting football. I've only got words of praise for Marco Silva's Fulham side. I think signing some really astute players like Willian, like Leno, for example, has kept them afloat. The American team throughout there, like Tim Ream, like Anthony Robinson as well. Really good in that respect. So, yeah, I give him the utmost credit, Marco Silva. I think he's done a fantastic job for them. Absolutely. Thomas Frank for me is an elite manager. An elite manager, right? He's really well spoken. He's really smart with the way he plays football. And he's really pragmatic. Look, Thomas Frank got 6 points against Man City last season. That is not to be sniffed at. That's a really tough job. Any team that plays Brentford know they're in for a battle. And for a team that was in League 2 almost a decade ago, if not longer, that's a really good work from Thomas Frank to bring them all the way up to the Premier League now. And not just bring them up to the Premier League, bring them up to Premier League and be a mainstay in the Premier League. Be a tough team for anyone to play against. He understands where he's at with Brentford. He understands that players like Ivan Toney, like David Raya want to move on to bigger and better things. He doesn't complain. He doesn't hold them ransom. He moves on from them and keeps the squad afloat. So I think absolutely fantastic job from Thomas Frank at Brentford. For me, he's an elite manager and I think he deserves to move on to a bigger club, to be honest. Whether he's going to take it, I'm not too sure. But the problem is, where does he go from Brentford? Because there's not many teams better than Brentford. I can't see any of the big 6, 7 shipping their manager out. So unless he moves abroad, I can't see him moving on to a bigger and better club, despite the fact he might deserve it. I mean, when Tottenham let go of what's the Donny's name, man? They let go of Conte, etc. I was actually thinking they could go for someone like Thomas Frank. They didn't obviously go for him. They could have gone for Graham Potter. They end up with Ange Postecoglou, which I think right now looks like a really good appointment from their behalf. But yeah, I think he could have been one of the options for Tottenham. Regardless, Thomas Frank's doing a fantastic job at Brentford. Next, Cooper. Steve Cooper, I do believe it is. Where am I putting him? I'm putting Steve Cooper in average. Now, he's not useless because he kept them afloat, Nottingham Forest. He's got a lot of players that he's brought in. I think he's an average manager. I can't put him higher than that, to be honest with you. He kept Forest afloat last season. Once again, they're brought in a lot of players this year and a lot of Premier League veterans, the likes of the Origi's coming, who I think could be a good signing, to be honest with you. Obviously, they're putting Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga. Their game plan's smart. It's sign players from top clubs that don't get game time. The Elangas, the Callum Hudson-Odois, the Nuno Tavares, etc. It makes sense on that front, to be honest. Now, whether they're going to thrive in this league and survive, I think they will survive purely because there's other teams that are worse than them. But I can't say Steve Cooper's an elite manager by any stretch of imagination. I think average is right about fair. Next, Roberto De Zerbi. Roberto De Zerbi, for me, right, is an elite manager. An elite manager, man. This brother's got cause for concern for the rest of the league, man. This brother cooks. Roberto De Zerbi's Brighton is a top team, man. Every time I watch them, they impress me. And they haven't got household names. The team that beat Manchester United 3-1, their squad was like 18 million it cost. 18 million when Man United's cost like 300. This brother's cooking with the team he's got, man. Roberto De Zerbi took about 3 months and turned Brighton into a top tier team, man. A team that anyone will fear playing against. And this is the thing. Arteta took, what, like 2-3 years to get Arsenal playing good football? De Zerbi took like 2 months. I thought Potter did a good job at Brighton. De Zerbi blew that out of the water. Potter did a good job at Brighton being pragmatic. De Zerbi turned Brighton into a fantastic football team. More than just pragmatic, a real danger. No one wants to play Brighton. That's not an easy game on the fixture list by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, De Zerbi's an elite manager, and trust me, he's punching well above his weight. Next, Mikel Arteta, my manager, Mikel Arteta. For me, Arteta's an elite manager as well. He's not GOAT because he's not won a Premier League and he's not won any other notable trophy. I'm not counting the FA Cup really in that respect. I think he's an elite manager because of what he's done at Arsenal. He's obviously transformed that squad into what was, let's be honest, a really toxic era Arsenal Football Club post Unai Emery. Obviously off the back of post Wenger. A lot of players that weren't good enough, the Mustafis, the Socrates, etc. The Bellerins. He obviously shipped out a lot of the deadwood, shipped out a lot of the egos, and he brought in a real new sense of confidence around this Arsenal squad and some new players, the likes of the Erdegaards, the likes of the Sakas that are coming through the academy, etc. Young players like that, and really brought some confidence around Arsenal Football Club. So yeah, Arteta for me has to be an elite manager. If he wins the Premier League, he can get shifted up slowly but surely into GOAT. But for now, elite manager. Next, Gary O'Neill, now the Wolverhampton Wanderers manager. I'm putting him in average. I think he did really well to keep Bournemouth afloat last season. Really well, because a lot of people had them to go down. I think myself included. I think he did really well. I was really shocked to see Bournemouth actually sack him, to be honest with you guys. But obviously they did. That's one of those things. But since he's come to Wolves, he hasn't really set the world alight, to be honest with you guys. He's lost a couple of games that he probably shouldn't have lost. I think against Man United, they were thoroughly unlucky to lose that game. And against Liverpool as well, they were thoroughly unlucky to lose that game as well. But look, you don't take your chances. That's what happens in football. So yeah, I'm putting Gary O'Neill in average. Finally, we've got David Moyes. David Moyes for me is a good manager. He won a trophy last season for West Ham United. He's always been a good manager. I don't think he's ever pushed elite status. I don't think he was the right appointment for Manchester United at the time. I understand why Sir Alex Ferguson chose it. It's a Scottish manager. It was the best up-and-coming Scottish manager. He wanted his successor in that respect, but he was never going to be a Manchester United manager. You know how to talk about saying, understand your pay grade, understand your ability. Like Unai Emery's thriving at Aston Villa and flopped at Arsenal. It's like David Moyes. Flopped at Manchester United, but thriving right now at West Ham United. Obviously, last season was a struggle for him, and I think maybe if he wasn't in the Europa Conference League, he might have lost his job. But this season he's had a fantastic start to life at West Ham United. Obviously, lost his last two games, but they were to Man City and Liverpool. You'd expect that, to be honest. But before that, been absolutely flying. The squad looks good. The signings have been good, and I put David Moyes in good. That's my final tier list, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Please do let me know. Also, let me know any other tier lists you'd like me to do in the comment section, whether it's Premier League stadiums, Premier League clubs in general, rivalries. I'd love to hear it, so please do let me know. And as always, if you are new around here, make sure you do subscribe on my road to 5,000 subscribers and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss a future video on the channel. I've been Michael. I appreciate you guys all for tuning in, and I hope to catch you all in my next video.